This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Leo Inc., Daolis Brothers Construction, and King Movers and Storage.
Welcome back to the LCTV News and the start of a brand new month. April brings with it the promise of spring and warmer weather to come, as well as an uptick in events, as shown by this packed episode. Much of this week was focused on the government side of news, ranging from military ceremonies to funding announcements. Our Lowdown with the Center for Law and Education fit right in, discussing the rights of students on both local and state levels. Here is the news for Friday, April 4th, 2025. March 28, 2025 marks 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. To this end, Lynn Swampscott Veteran Services hosted a Vietnam Veterans ceremony in the foyer of Lynn City Hall last Monday. Here's a clip from the event.
Even though we're here, I think to feel kind of sad about the way things went in the 60s, it was a tough era. And when veterans came home, they bore the brunt of a nation that was angry, frustrated, sick of seeing a war in which we weren't winning, politicians that didn't have the will to let us win that war, and the ordinary GI was the one who faced the frustration firsthand. But, you know, we were resilient. That's what the military taught us, and after a while, no big deal, on we went. So in my case, I became a teacher in Lynn, and one of my missions as an ex-veteran was to be part of Memorial Day and Veterans Days assemblies at our schools, and with the help of great principals like Warren White and ex-veterans like Lou Marini, whose dad was one of the founders of the Shoemaker Post, we put on for 15 to 20 years some assemblies that really tried to instill the camaraderie in Lynn of being a veteran and what we saw in our community.
To watch the full ceremony, visit lyntv.org. The City Arts and Science Academy, CASA, is slated to open this fall. So LPS hosted an open house the afternoon of April 1st to celebrate the new school. CASA will be a STEAM school: science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math, designed to prepare students for the ever-evolving workforce. CASA will open with 100 students in grades 6 and 9, adding 2 classes each year until they reach its capacity of 700 as a 6 through 12 grade school. It will open at 33 North Common Street, in the building that currently houses the Fecto-Leary Junior-Senior High School, occupying part of the building for the 2025-26 school year and the entire space by the fall of 2026. Fecto-Leary will be moving to the Eastern Bank site on Market Street. The concept for this STEAM school was developed by LPS teachers and administrators, based on feedback from experts at the Center of Arts and Scholarship, community partners, parents, students, and former graduates, all with the goal of creating a school where students work on a different project each semester in conjunction with various community organizations, such as Raw Arts and Girls Inc. After nearly 7 years of permitting, planning, and environmental cleanup, The former landfill site along the Lynnway is being transformed into a 30-acre public park, featuring walking paths, picnic tables, and an unmatched view of the harbor. According to City Council President Jay Walsh, they took inspiration from Boston's Spectacle Island, a former landfill that was also capped and turned into a popular public park. Lynn's Harbor Park is in the final stages of Phase 1, with an anticipated ribbon cutting in June. Extensive remediation work has included importing more than 540,000 cubic yards of grading material, repairing the landfill cap, and implementing coastal resilience elements to combat future flooding and storm surges. More than 500 trees have already been planted at the site, along with the addition of new staircases and gravel pathways, and most importantly, access to the Lynn Harbor, which has been cut off for years. A basketball court, 2 pickleball courts, and an outdoor performance space are also in progress. City officials are hoping by converting this eyesore into a public parkway, it will improve residents' quality of life and set the stage for Lynn's 245-acre waterfront redevelopment vision. In response to the closure of several Social Security offices, in conjunction with many other announcements, the Massachusetts Senior Action Council organized a protest down the street at the Lynn Social Security office. Holding hands-off Social Security signs, members of MSAC and the general community expressed how cuts in Social Security harm more than 1 million people in this state alone who rely on the money they receive to pay their bills and simply survive.
Love, not hate, makes America great. Love, not hate, makes America great.
And we are here today to protest Social Security being cut because we don't see that there's any fraud in Social Security, but harm is being done to people.
Folks have worked their whole lives to create a program that can sustain a dignified retirement, and to slash it and turn their backs on the folks that depend on it most is not acceptable.
Why it brings me out is because they're trying to do cuts all over the system, and that's not cool. We worked hard, my wife and I. My wife's in an electric chair. They do some cuts. What's she gonna do? What am I gonna do? What are all these people gonna do? They're gonna be living on the streets more than the people that are on the streets now. We won't take it. We'll take charge. Musk must go. Something's gotta change. It's not right for us. We worked all our lives for this.
I'm a lifelong learner, and I've been paying into Social Security for 47 years. This is not a Ponzi scheme. It's not entitlements. We earned it. We need it, and it saves a big part of our income, monthly income. Any cuts are disrespectful to the elderly and the people who take Social Security.
They have to go, just walk into the office. They have to get appointments, and they call the appointments is months, weeks and months away. And some people have to travel a long distance just to get to the office, and they don't have transportation access. Because what it's doing is wrong. Because people invested their money into Social Security for when you get old, that you would have benefits to be able to live off. So this is being taken away from people. And this is it's just wrong.
Hands up! Social Security! Hands up! Social Security!
The Trump administration announced on April 1st that they have terminated $106 million in federal funding for Massachusetts K-12 schools. According to the state, the Federal Education Stabilization Fund ended at 5 p.m. on April 1st. However, according to the Healey administration, they were informed in February of 2025 that they would have a year to spend the funds. This funding provided support for mental health services, intensive math tutoring, and assisted in rectifying pandemic-related learning loss. It was also being used to update buildings, security systems, and professional development for educators in 20 school districts, including Lynn. For Lynn Public Schools, they stand to lose just over $339,000 in federal aid. Here is more from Governor Healy and Mayor Nicholson.
Governor, a little bit off topic, but you mentioned a few of the Trump administration's actions. K-12 education cuts we just heard about. The impact on the state, I believe Lynn was actually on that list.
Yeah. Look, it's another example of how devastating the Trump administration has been. The cuts to health care, the cuts to research for all sorts of cures and treatments. Now cuts to education. Yesterday we saw more cuts to Health and Human Services, including the firing of 10,000 Health and Human Services employees, including many here in Massachusetts, and the shuttering of another HHS office here in Massachusetts. Education funding, look, you know, it's quite a contrast. What Donald Trump is doing, slashing funding for education, and what I am doing. What we're doing here in Massachusetts, we're focused on making more investments in education, more investments on mental health services for young people and students, more investments in literacy to make up for some of the loss experienced during COVID and the pandemic, more childcare seats. That's what we've done, just as a few examples. But coming after Title I funding, coming after special ed funding, taking aides out of classrooms who are working with our young people who may have different physical or other disabilities, it doesn't make any sense. The literacy experts and aides who are in classrooms, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make us stronger. It doesn't make us smarter. It doesn't make us more competitive. So, you know, I don't understand why Donald Trump is doing these things, but I know here in Massachusetts, through the great work of mayors and our legislators and others, we're going to remain committed to doing all we can to support our young people. I hope that Donald Trump reverses these actions, because it doesn't make any sense to dismantle education in this country.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous that money would be cut. We were fortunate to receive the ESSER funding that we did, and we put it to great use with some really important projects throughout the district. Some of those projects, because of construction challenges that we were all experiencing, were just a little bit over the timeline. We went through the process that was laid out to get the approval to do that, and have done it. The work is done. There's a beautiful facility opening soon, actually, for special education students, some of whom are medically fragile and have pretty significant needs, and they're going to have a great space that is also better suited for their needs and relieve some overcrowding that was some of the underlying issues that we experienced during the pandemic. And that's what that money is going to and should go to. And we will, I'm sure, stand with the Healy Driscoll administration, the Attorney General's office, and whoever can help us with this to try to reverse those cuts.
Because I mean, these were funds that were appropriated, that were already sent to us to use, right, as a state and as cities and towns across Massachusetts. And, you know, that money has been put to good use and will continue to be. So it's ridiculous that they're seeking to claw this money back, to take this away.
With less than 2 weeks until the April 15th tax filing deadline, Governor Healy visited the Lynn Senior Center the afternoon of the 2nd to discuss the tax package she signed into law, but not before participating in a round of bingo.
On April 2nd, Governor Healy visited the Lynn Senior Center, where first she called bingo
068 and 33.
Before moving into announcements about tax cuts that the community can take advantage of.
With taxes due in less than 2 weeks, we're here to let everyone know that that's exactly what we did. We cut state taxes for the first time in over 20 years. That's why this year you will be paying less than before, and for many people, including seniors and families with children, you'll be getting more money back than ever before.
The senior circuit tax credit will get up to $2,730 back to people that are 65 or older by December 31st. own or rent in Massachusetts as their principal residence, and have a total income below a certain amount based on filing status.
When we took office, the maximum amount that you could get was $1,200. In this day and age, with rents and mortgage payments what they are, it isn't enough. So we doubled it. And now our child and family tax credit is $440 per child or dependent adult. And you get that for every single child or adult that you care for. No cap. What this means is now Massachusetts families get the largest child tax credit in the entire country. You don't have to do any extra paperwork. All you have to do is file your taxes. And it's not only the new tax cut that families may be eligible for. If you qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit, we increase that too.
There are free tax prep sites throughout the state and more resources at mass.gov/tax-cuts and the Department of Revenue's website, which also list free filing options.
So we are laser focused on making life more affordable for people here in Massachusetts. We started cutting taxes. It's worked. We're going to continue to work on this. I just want to make sure that people take advantage of this.
Lynn has been named a 2024 Tree City USA and picked for a Growth Award through the Arbor Day Foundation in recognition of their commitment to planting, growing, and caring for trees in the community. To be recognized as a Tree City, a city must maintain a tree board or department, have a community tree ordinance, spend at least $2 per capita on urban forestry, and participate in an Arbor Day celebration. This is the 35th time Lynn has earned the Tree City designation, but it is the city's first Growth Award, which includes a more extensive criteria to be eligible. One such move was the hiring of Erica Holm as the city's first Urban Forestry Fellow in June of 2024, with grant money through the Arbor Day Foundation. That funding is now uncertain, but in less than a year, Holm has added a website, a new tree request form, created the Lynn Tree Committee, and hired a co-op student over the winter. There were also extensive cleanups in Lynn Woods after devastating fires last fall. On a more uplifting note, the students of Callahan Elementary are embracing kindness through the launch of their very own Kids Kindness Club in collaboration with Kochenour's Kindness Project and sponsored by the Caroline Remick Foundation. On March 11th, 400 students packed the auditorium, learning how small acts of kindness can make a large impact on fellow peers and the community as a whole. CKP Callahan Principal James Kennison and Linfield High teen volunteers introduced the club to students. The Kids Kindness Club is designed to foster empathy, inclusion, and community service to support a positive school experience and reduce bullying. Research has shown that schools with kindness programs increase student engagement, decrease bullying incidents, have higher academic achievement and emotional well-being, and a stronger feeling of school community. Students at Callahan are dedicated to improving the lives of all their peers, one act of kindness at a time. The Lowdown this week was unique as we welcome the Center for Law and Education, a Boston-based nonprofit organization focused on assisting low-income students and helping communities address educational barriers. Here is more. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and today we welcome on two members from the Center for Law and Education. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Great to be here. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So first off, would you mind just introducing yourselves and your title within the organization?
Sure. I'm Fran Smith, and I'm the Managing Director.
Great.
I'm Skye Kochenour, and I'm the Legal Director.
So we will be talking specifically about a program you're running in Lynn, but first of all, for people who aren't aware of you, what really is your mission and what communities do you serve?
Sure. The Center for Law and Education is a nonprofit resource advocacy and support organization, and it's committed to advancing the right of all students to a high-quality public education. We serve the whole state of Massachusetts. We're rooted in civil rights and ed reform law. CLE addresses systemic barriers that impede low-income students, disproportionately students of color, English learners, immigrant students, and students with disability from learning to high standards and staying in school to learn and receive a high school diploma. We were founded in 1969, and we engage in legislative and administrative policy advocacy at the federal, state, and local levels, and we played a key role in shaping major provisions of state laws and regulations governing federal education programs as well. Title I, Individuals with Disabilities Act, and the Perkins Act, for example. We've been around for 6 decades, and what probably we've litigated landmark cases that, for example, articulated the right of African American students to equal educational opportunities, ensuring students facing disciplinary exclusions get due process rights, and establishing the right of students with disabilities, even if they are incarcerated or they're detained in youth facilities, to receive meaningful and appropriate specialized instruction. As the managing director, my role is fundraising, daily administrative operations, collaborative work on educational policy issues, and fostering collaborations, opportunities for collective work, which is why we're here in Lynn, because we want to work with families, students, schools, community groups, educators, to ensure that the students with special needs in Lynn are getting the best access to the best quality education. I want to turn it over to...
Sure, yeah.
All right.
For just kind of a brief, thank you, Fran, for that summary. So I'm the legal director at the Center for Law and Education. And so with my colleagues, that means I'm responsible for kind of setting the direction of the organization in terms of the types of issues that we're focusing on, kind of the different positions we want to take, and what avenues we pursue to get change, whether that is through court, whether that is through working kind of on the ground level with schools, whether it's through working at the state level with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
And you cover such a wide range. I know today we're talking about the All Aboard campaign, which was launched very recently. You just got the funding for it, you said, back in December. So would you be able to give a little bit about what this program specifically covers, what communities you're going to be in?
Yeah, of course. So, as Fran mentioned, we have a long history at CLE of advocating for the rights of students with disabilities and working to ensure that all students have access to the same educational standards and are learning the same things. And the All Aboard campaign is focused within the world of like assessment within students with disabilities. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means with the law, and then kind of what that means practically for Massachusetts, what that means for Lynn. So all students under federal law have the right to learn to the same content standards. And so that's, you may have heard the words curriculum frameworks every now and again, and that's what the state has said, okay, here's what all kids need to learn. These are curriculum frameworks, everyone gets to learn this. And then we have the MCAS, the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, which has been in the news for other reasons around graduation recently. But this is Massachusetts measuring how are our kids doing against these standards. And they all have to be measured on the grade level standards, except for this one small exception, which is for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. They can be assessed on a lower level, on lower below grade level standards. It's a very narrow exception. And so we were looking kind of at the data around this, and that lower assessment is called the MCAS Alt. And we noticed that statewide, consistently in Massachusetts, more students were being placed on this lower track than was expected under the provisions of the federal law that kind of sets this up. And then looking further at it, you can see that students from low-income families, students of color, and multilingual learners are disproportionately more likely to be put on this lower track. And then we would see as well through our own representation of students, as well as working with other attorneys at regional legal aid organizations throughout the state, that there were students being placed on this MCAS Alt track, that were not students with the most significant cognitive disabilities, which was supposed to be like who this exception is limited to. And so we're like, okay, something's going on here. There's not only are there more students on this track than should be expected, the types of students that are on it don't necessarily line up with what federal law was anticipating. And so why does this matter, right? I just told you that all kids have the right to learn to the same standards. And just being on that lower track doesn't mean you don't get to learn to those same standards. You get assessed on lower standards, but you should still have access to the same content, grade level wise, that everyone else does. The problem is, in practice, that doesn't always happen. We have seen that once you're assessed on these lower standards, the expectations for a student can be lower, and the education can kind of be lowered as well. And so you kind of, in practice, even though you're not supposed to lose access to the grade level things, you do. We were focused on the state level for the past 5 or 6 years working on this, and that has really shown us we need to have a parallel ground-up approach, working with families, working with communities, working with districts, and that's where the Tower Foundation funding came in.
Good. Working with, it was?
Lynn, Lawrence, and Haverhill were the 3 towns we were going to be focused on, yes.
Great. And you mentioned this MCAS alternate. So let's say a student gets assessed, put on this track, and you realize they don't fit these federal requirements, like you said. Is there a way to then, like you said, kind of switch them back to the, I don't know what the word would be, like more standard educational track?
Yeah, so it's a decision that has to be made as part of the IEP process for students with disabilities. And so just like any other provision of an IEP, you have the right to either accept or reject it or challenge it in some way. So you can challenge it through that realm.
Okay, right. And you said this program is quite new. You said you just got the funding. So kind of looking forward as you're going through it, working with families, communities, what are your goals for this specific all-aboard program? Like what would you really like to accomplish, let's say, in the next year or so?
Yeah, Fran, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. So we're fighting to end the misuse of the MCAS alt in those communities, which unfairly places students with disabilities on lower academic track, sometimes as early as 3rd grade. This practice disproportionately affects students, that Sky just said. So the grant will support training for parents, students, and advocates to challenge these harmful placements, legal representation for affected students, and data-driven advocacy to push for policy changes. CLE will work with schools to promote reforms, ensuring all students receive high-quality education they deserve. Just as no child begins school without a desire to learn, no educator embarks on a career without wanting to foster children's educational success. And that we should be able to support and tap into that and reignite the possibilities of doing so to ensure that kids are not disproportionately assigned to the alt, and that only the kids with the most severe cognitive disabilities end up there. Right. I just want to say, when I first came here, I was really disturbed by this because I have a great nephew in Fall River, and he had some severe disabilities as an infant, and he had early intervention, and by the 2nd grade or so, his mom asked me to come to an IEP meeting, and they were trying to put him on the alternative MCAS alt. Yeah. I actually didn't know as much as I know now about it, but we prevented that from happening, and he's graduating from Fall River and got accepted into Mass Maritime. Wow, he's been an incredible student leader. The president of DACA just has, and that's the point. With the knowledge and information, you can advocate at the school level for your child to get the supports that they need so they can succeed and meet the same standards. Do you want to add anything? No.
So you were saying in a place, like Lynn, certain communities, that's what you want to be doing, giving people the tools that they need to really be able to fight it, because even, I'll admit, I don't understand many aspects of this, so I wouldn't really know how to go about either accepting, denying, fighting it.
Yeah, and I think, too, the goal is to do it in a collaborative manner, because these decisions are happening at the school level with educators and with parents. And so I think it is about providing not just parents kind of with the knowledge of what their rights are in this area, but also trying to work with educators to develop policies to ensure that the determinations that are being made about students are as accurate as possible. Yeah.
Making sure that they're placed on correct tracks that help get them their full potential, right? Like you were saying, graduate and do whatever they desire to be doing as they get older.
Right.
Right. And I said, this sounds like it's an interesting program, and that I am still learning about this myself, but if people are interested to learn more, how would they go about doing this, through your organization?
Yeah, so we are going to be launching in the coming months trainings in Lynn.
Oh, great.
For parents, and so we'll be able to provide information on that. If there's anyone who wants to either learn more about the topic or is interested in the training, they can always send us an email to our general email address of cle@cleweb.org.
Or you can use mine.
Or Fran's as well. You can email Fran directly. But there will be trainings coming to Lynn specifically about this for parents, students, and educators.
Great. We'll be looking forward. We'll be looking onto that. And this is a good point to say. I do have to wrap up in a moment, but was there any other points that I hadn't mentioned that you wanted to make sure you put in?
I don't think so.
Just that I think I forgot to mention that we are a backup center for the legal aid organizations across the Commonwealth. In the last couple of years, we've been working with them to really emphasize the importance of a right to a high-quality education and not dummy down and not ending up in programs that don't allow you to meet your great potential. And we are very concerned about the decoupling of the MCAS with the high school diploma and what's going to happen moving forward, especially to students who used to be on the MCAS alt, to students with special needs, because we know that there's still stigma about poor kids, kids of color, kids whose first language isn't English, and kids with disabilities not being able to achieve at the same standards as kids that don't have those challenges. So we've been in the business for 55 years, and we know that with information, knowledge, and advocacy, schools and families can work together to get what the young people need so they can have great lives and be participants in a democracy. Yes.
Knowledge is power, right? And making sure that all children get the education they deserve.
Yeah, knowledge is definitely power.
Great. Well, thank you for coming on to give both me and our audience some of this knowledge, and I really look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. Thank you anytime. And once again, this has been the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and we'll see you next week with more guests. Spring sports are officially off and running. St. Mary's softball fought hard, but ultimately fell to Gloucester 2-1 over the weekend. Meanwhile, their baseball team went on the road and returned with a 3-1 victory against Milton on March 31st. Michael Domino and Maxwell Parent both registered RBI singles. Josh Dani continued his success from last season, allowing just 3 hits and punching out 9 in 6 innings of work. Then Zach Zimmerman came in and struck out the side in the 7th for the save. Rams baseball began on the right note, defeating Linfield on the road 5-4. Down by 3 in the 6th, Classical staged a late-game comeback for the win. With runners in scoring position, it was Gavin Collins hitting the game-winning sacrifice fly to drive in a run. Mark Walsh recorded the save, while also going 2 for 4 at the plate with an RBI. Tech baseball began their year also on a high note, besting Salem Academy 8-3 on March 27th. Eddie Lewis Jr. recorded a relief win along with 2 knocks at the plate. Colin Newhall added 2 hits of his own, while Jendo Diaz grabbed a double and triple. They struggled against Malden, dropping a 12-3 final on April 1st. Their boys' volleyball team went 5 sets, but emerged the 3-2 victors over Whittier Regional Vocational Tech. Leading the pack for the Tigers was Elmer Duran with 34 assists, 9 digs, and 3 aces, and Didlaire Jacques Jr. posting 16 digs, 5 blocks, and 5 aces. Tech advanced in the city tournament, beating English in straight sets 3-0. Duran again led the way with 21 assists, 6 digs, and an ace, along with 8 digs and 7 kills from Jason Tran. The Tigers will face Lynn Classical for the city championship tomorrow the 5th. The Rams soared over Kip 3-0 to earn their spot in the finals. Viet Tran registered 10 kills and 3 aces, while Luca Loprior tacked on 8 aces and 15 service points won in the victory. A week and a half for all that remain of the 2025 NBA regular season, but that is when the fireworks will really begin. Until then, the Celtics are showing no signs of slowing down, beating the San Antonio Spurs 121-111 off a double-double 29-point, 10-rebound night by Jason Tatum and 21-point performance by Drew Holiday. They were shooting 48% from the field and 33% from three-point range, a deadly combination. Boston registered their 9th straight win, led by Al Horford's 26 points for a 117-103 final versus the Memphis Grizzlies. The Celtics were actually down 7 by the end of one, but a 41-point second gave them a 5-point lead headed into halftime, which they built into a 14-point advantage. They then dropped a 124-103 final to the Miami Heat on April 2nd. Following a win on opening day, the Red Sox went into a 4-game skid. Boston finally got back in the win column on the 2nd, beating the Baltimore Orioles 3-0 behind a phenomenal 8-inning, 9-strikeout, 4-hit shutout by their ace, Garrett Crochet. Even more important, DH Rafael Devers finally registered his first hit, 2 actually, after going 0 for 19 to begin the year. Trevor Story also broke out for his first home run knock of the year in the 2nd inning. Boston won that series, winning the finale 8-4 on the 3rd. This week we have a bonus round on the Lowdown, providing insight into an upcoming event, Gallery Talk, next Friday, April 11th, from 6 to 10 p.m. Hear more of these details from the organizers in this abbreviated interview. Hello and welcome back to the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and today we welcome on 2 guests from the podcast Old Soul, Young World. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So you are here to talk about a very specific event, but before we dive into that, can you both just quickly introduce yourselves and a little bit about the podcast for people who may not know?
Sure. So I'm Jessie Ellie. I'm the CEO and founder of Old Soul, Young World.
Hello, I'm Radamé Batista.
All right. And Old Soul Young World, it is a motivational mental health podcast and media platform, but we also throw community events. So it's a little bit of a mix of both.
A little bit of both. Yeah. And today specifically you're talking about a community event that is literally called Gallery Talk, which is an acronym. So I will ask first, what does that stand for?
Well, if I could just touch back real quick also. Also Young World runs a podcast, but we're not just a podcast. We're a motivational entrepreneurial brand. Mm-hmm. And our series of Gallery Talks, which talk is an acronym for talented artists lending knowledge, as we're bringing camaraderie in the city through all these dope, amazing artists that are going to be there. And we are truly bringing this feeling that you usually get out in Boston, but in Lynn, which is a community event, and these talented artists will be lending their knowledge. Jessie?
And it's 4 artists, correct, that will be performing?
Yes, it's 4 artists that's going to be performing. We have Boston Music Awards 3-time Artist of the Year, Latin Artist of the Year, Yelena La Rosa. We also have Ashanti Eva Davenport. We have Paradoxic King, who is a Lynn native himself.
Indeed.
Yep, and we have the Nate Nicks. So we got a really strong lineup.
I know, I'm excited to see it. And of course, I probably should have started with this, but when is the event happening? Where, the nuts and bolts of it?
For sure. So our event is actually next Friday, April 11th. It's 6 to 10 at the Palette Function Room, which is 16A City Hall Square in Lynn. So if you're local, you're from Boston, the North Shore, anywhere in between, it's a free event, and we want to see you there. Free parking.
That's good. That's a big thing,
There's
especially in
parking.
Lynn. You feel like kind of have to squeeze yourself into spots sometimes.
Seriously.
And of course, I will ask, this is volume 2.
Yes.
So you have done this previously, and it sounds like it went very well, so you're coming back for a second one?
Yes, exactly.
And, I will ask, word is bond. So you mentioned that when you sent something in about the importance of choosing that as a theme. Did you want to touch on that?
Certainly.
Yeah.
So, Jessica, you want to kick it off?
Sure, yeah. Word is bond is a phrase that you hear throughout pop culture, throughout movies, music, history. It's very closely ingrained into hip-hop culture. A lot of people say word is bond, right?
Yeah.
When we were thinking about this event and having artists come out to talk and share their knowledge, who are also performers, who sing, do poetry, rap, etc., we were thinking about they don't use an instrument, they use their voice. Their voice is their powerful tool.
Yeah.
Their voice is their bond. Their word is their bond. So when you think about the concept word is bond, like, that's a great phrase. It sounds cool, but what does it really mean? It means that what you're saying is how people trust you. So the whole theme of the event is our artists talking about what word is bond means to them, but also showing how they perform that through their actual art form.
Interesting. Interesting. Did you anything?
Oh, well, Gallery Talk 1 was food for thought. And if anyone is interested in seeing on our Instagram page and on our YouTube page, it was a live episode within the season 3. So this one's gonna have that same type of feeling in a sense of there will be a panelist. It will be by the hostess with the mostest, Miss Jessie Ellie, at the 1s and 2s. And there's gonna be some really thought-provoking questions being asked. And then after they speak about their word is bond, they're gonna put it into live performances, which is a really beautiful thing once you see it all come to life.
You get both pieces of it.
Yes.
Speaking about it, but then you get to actually see them perform.
Yes.
Which, at least for me, is so captivating. I've been to events like these before, and I realize I haven't been filming for 5 minutes because I get so captivated by what they're saying.
Right. And that's the thing that we've heard from the artists coming to perform at this. Like, wow, it's so awesome that you guys are asking me to perform, but aside from that, I get to voice my own knowledge about, like, the struggle I went through to get here, what this means to me, how my art form plays into my everyday life.
Yeah.
Usually artists are just, being paid to come do what they're supposed to, sing or rap or whatever. This is giving them the chance, yes, to show the art form, but also, like Ryan May said, to vulnerably communicate, to speak out and let people know who's behind that artist, how did they get there?
Yeah. Give some of the backstory, right?
For sure.
It's poetry in motion at the same time. Like, they're going to be performing, and then when they're going to be talking about going to the performance and then just the action piece of it, in particular, Paradox King, he's an incredible performer. Not to single anyone out, but him being in Lynn and being able to just bring it in here to build the camaraderie in the city. That's what we're trying to do ultimately with these events.
And I know we'll wrap up in a moment, but were there any other upcoming events or anything else that you did want to mention, either about this or anything in the future?
Yeah, so a couple announcements. You guys can be on the lookout for season 4 of Old Soul Young World, the show. We are in the production phase of that, so that will be coming in the future. But for events in the city, we will be throwing an event this summer. The date is to be decided, so make sure you guys follow us on Instagram so you can get that notification. And then this is a little bit of a secret, but we can let it out on today's show.
Oh, boy.
We are going to be doing a fashion show in the city of Lynn, and that's going to be in the fall, so sometime between September, October, with a lot of local fashion designers, so we can't wait for that one.
I feel special now.
Yeah,
I
you
got told
should,
this
Dani. Nobody knows that secret but you. Well, and your audience now.
Yes, and now them, but I was still first. Well, that all sounds amazing. It sounds so awesome, the engagement you've gotten in the city, through the podcast, and through everything else. I do have to wrap up now in a moment, but was there anything else you wanted to toss out there before I wrapped it?
The only thing I want to say is our Gallery Talk events are open to everybody, all ages, all shapes, all sizes, all vibes. We want everybody there. It's a night to enjoy, network, and communicate. And one thing that we just want to make sure people know is we're really trying to bridge the gap so that these amazing events that you usually only get to go to in Boston that are high ticketed, we're making them affordable and accessible for the local community.
Definitely.
Just on that note, because she nailed it, but thank you, Dani. This has been an incredible experience here at Lynn TV.
And I said, thank you both so much again for coming on, sharing this, and I'm really excited to see this event next week.
Thank you. We can't wait to have you there.
Of course, anytime. And once again, this has been the Lynn Lowdown. I'm Dani Vittori, and we'll see you next week with more guests. Next week is Public Health Week, and the Lynn Public Health Division is hosting an event every day, beginning with a walk around the Common and flag raising at noon on Monday, April 7th, with remarks from Mayor Nicholson at 12:30 p.m. Come get a bit of exercise while hearing from several representatives about the importance of health in all aspects of life, from physical to mental to emotional. Join the Lynn Museum for their Museum Enrichment Series for All on the second Wednesday of the month at noon. This month, on April 9th, hear from Tawana Wright, a writer and artist from Mobile, Alabama, who moved to Massachusetts as a young girl. She will discuss her experiences obtaining an MFA in creative writing, her participation in several workshops, and how she uses art as escapism and therapy. This event is virtual and open to everyone. The only requirement is registering in advance. Visit the Lynn Museum's website or Facebook page to learn more. Keeping with the theme of public health, attend a community organization networking event at City Hall. Beginning at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, April 9th, head down for the opportunity to speak with the organizations in your city and learn what they have to offer. This includes members from the Public Health Division and our own LCTV, along with many others. That brings us to the finish line for this week's broadcast. Events are heating up as weather warms and holidays approach. To learn more about these and all events on our community calendar, as well as videos on demand and news, visit lyntv.org. If you prefer your news on the go, follow @LynnCommunityTV for up-to-date announcements and stories. If watching informational videos is more your speed, then Lynn Community Television on YouTube is the place for you. I'm Dani Vittori, this is LCTV News, and we will see you next week.
This episode of the LCTV News is brought to you by Leo Inc., Daolis Brothers Construction, and King Movers and Storage.